Hi everybody, it's Jeannie from Gardening Jones. I was hoping that maybe there'd be less traffic since it's a weekday and we just got home from work, not a weekend, so maybe we won't have to have that much background noise. I wanted to talk to you today about something called the Dirty Dozen. It's put out every year by a group called the Environmental Working Group, or EWG.org, on Food News. And you can see it here. This is a printable PDF. They will email you. It's made so you can cut it out, fold it in half, and stick it in your wallet. And what they do is they test produce, among other things on their website. Check out their website. I'll put the link below. But they test produce for levels of pesticides and herbicides in them. I first found out about them quite a few years ago. Potatoes tended to be at the top of the list a lot, so that's why we started growing our own potatoes. If you're growing food in part to get something that's healthier for you, if you're growing organically, certainly, or if you have enough money to spend, maybe limited on organic food, these guys can help you know which are the foods that maybe you should grow if you can, or which are the foods that you should spend your organic dollars on and you don't have to on the others. So let's start. This year, number one at the top of the list is strawberries. They've been on the list a lot. Super easy to grow strawberries. You buy some crowns or get them from some friends if they have them. Stick them in the ground. Just don't let the crown get covered or they'll probably die. That spring, first year, plant in the spring, first year you should pinch off all the flowers as hard as that is, but it will help them get a much stronger root system, and then you'll have strawberries forever unless you do something to them. They send out little runners with little babies on them and they'll fill up the bed themselves. Every once in a while you want to pull out some to make room for new babies to come in. We've actually found them going out of beds too, and we're able to pick up the babies and put them in the bed. So super easy if you got the room. Hanging pots, a lot of times they'll do, floor planters. If you can grow your own strawberries, then you won't have to worry about the pesticides in them. Number two is spinach, and number three right behind it is kale, collard greens, and mustard greens. They kind of lumped them all together. I think it was 2 years ago was the first year that kale hit the top 12 list. Now these are the bad, most pesticide and herbicide vegetables and fruits. I think it was the demand. Kale became a superfood, so in order to keep up with production, farmers would have to use more intensive methods of growing it. I've never seen mustard greens and collard greens on there before, so I don't know if they just lumped them all together. If you can grow your own kale, do it. I've never frozen it. I'm sure you can. I know with spinach, it's wonderful fresh. It does get a lot of bugs going after it, which I'm sure is what's happening here. But I once had a whole farm sink full of spinach and got 5 small, little handful-sized frozen spinach. So if you eat a lot of spinach, I like to have spinach in my smoothies in the morning, so I buy organic spinach, and this is just another reason for it. A lot of the items on here are fruit. So the next one is nectarines. I've never grown nectarines. It's related to peaches. It grows best in zones 5 or warmer. We're 5B, so it would probably make it. You can get them, you don't need more than one variety like you do with some, like apples, but you can get them grafted with different varieties on them. You can buy a semi-dwarf tree. Plant it in the spring is best, late fall in some places, and grow your own. I'm not much of a nectarine fan, so I never have. But apples. Apples, it seems to be always on the list. With apples, you do need 2 varieties. You can get one semi-dwarf tree that has grafted different varieties on it, or if you have somebody in the neighborhood that is growing an apple tree, they don't have to be right next to each other, but they do have to be 2 different varieties. I do have some information on my blog and on here about growing fruit trees, so you can check that out if you're interested. Grapes really surprised me. Grapes are super easy to grow. It's a vine. It grows up. It comes back every year. The most work you have to do is trim them, prune them. Pruning them actually helps you get larger grapes, so it's worth it. The same is true for blueberries and for like the fruiting trees too, like peach trees and pear trees and that. You can also thin out the amount of fruit that's there, which is partly what pruning does also, and you'll get larger, healthier fruit. But I'm not sure why they're heavily pesticiding grapes. Next is cherries. We do have 3 Nanking cherry bushes. We get maybe 10% of the cherries. The birds get the rest. After I retire next year, I retire in the fall next year, I hope to either build a structure to help keep the birds out, or between himself and I, we can do a little bit better harvesting and get more of our share, like 50-50 of the cherries. I like to mix cherries in with some of the jams when I do make those. Peaches, again, like the nectarines. This year, unfortunately, our peach tree is going to have to be cut down. It served us well for many years, but it has finally given up the ghost, and it will probably be getting replaced. But yeah, maybe I'll replace it with nectarine and try it. Who knows? Pears. Again, all these fruit. The fruit is very hard. It gets attacked from all different angles. So fruit farmers, I know a few I'm hooked into on Facebook, and it's a lot of work. It is a lot of work between trimming and trying to keep the trees alive. We were lucky to get a pear tree, a semi-dwarf pear tree that grows 5 varieties of pears. It, oddly enough, grows 3 one season and 2 the next. I think because it grows on last year's branches. So again, prune it. Then I might have a cluster of like 5 pears that I'll thin out to 2. So those 2 pears will get bigger and they'll be much tastier. So it doesn't have to take up a lot of room, as I said, and we've had ours easily 7 years or more, probably more. I think it's 2008, so coming up on 12 years. Bell and hot peppers. You're probably already growing them, but there you go. I mean, grow them. The best way to grow them, my father told me once, is closer together than they recommend, and I find that true. They seem to support each other. And since they're related to tomatoes and eggplants, shaking the plants a little bit when the flowers are out will move the pollen and increase the amount of peppers you get. Also, the more you pick, like beans and peas with peppers, the more you pick, the more they'll keep producing. So you pick a few little ones off when they first start, the plant thinks, oh no, I'm not going to be able to grow peppers. So it will start putting out more flowers, because that's its main goal, is to reproduce. Celery is probably not something that most people grow. Homegrown celery actually has like a peppery taste. I was really shocked when I tasted it for the first time. I mean, I used to kind of wonder, why would you put celery in that? You know, it doesn't have that much flavor. I mean, it adds a nice crunch to tuna salad or something, but why would you throw it in soup? Well, now I know why they threw it in soup, because it has that peppery flavor to it. I would recommend trying to grow it. The only way that really you can store it, though, you can can it in with other things like soups, but I would dehydrate it, and then you can actually make your own celery powder from it just by dehydrating it and either crushing it as you go or crushing it up and keeping it on the shelf. And the last on the list for this year is tomatoes. If you have a vegetable garden, I'm sure you have tomatoes. I mean, some people that grow nothing else will grow a tomato on their patio. What didn't quite make the list, I believe it came in at number 13, was potatoes. I was surprised. It's kind of nice to see potatoes off the list. I don't think it's because everything else is being grown, or because potatoes are being grown better. I'm guessing it's probably because everything else is getting worse with the pesticides. So there you go. Something to consider if you can afford organic in some of these cases, or if you can grow your own. That's a really good reason why. Now, they also have the Clean 15. If your organic dollars are limited, which, you know, pretty much everybody's are, don't spend extra for these. The first one is avocados. My goodness, they're expensive enough. I mean, at least here in Pennsylvania, they don't grow locally. So if there is such a thing as an organic avocado and you don't have extra money, there's no reason. Sweet corn. The only exception to sweet corn is in the rare cases where you get sold GMO corn. I did hear of one large, very, very large chain, grocery / appliances / clothing / you name it, we have it / we buy a lot from China, chain store, that was offering GMO corn. It's high, I don't know if they still are. It's highly unlikely. We either grow our own or we buy it locally from the farmers. It's going to be better than certainly GMO, which is GMO corn, if you hadn't heard. In order for it to survive being hit with Roundup and all the other chemicals, they crossed corn with E. coli. So yeah, that's something I want to eat. I know they were crossing a tomato with a fresh or warm water fish to try to make tomatoes more heat tolerant because they will drop their buds. I forget what the other one was. They drop, but anyway, GMOs are no bueno in most cases. So sweet corn in most cases is not an issue. It's probably not GMO, so don't worry about going for organic. Pineapple, for one thing, takes 3 years to grow. And in my climate, I have to be bringing it in every winter. It's low in pesticides. Onions, we grow our own only because we like the taste so much better, but they're also low in pesticides. Now here's the sweet peas, but it says frozen. So there must be some reason why they're picking peas sooner, so they don't have to hit it with pesticides, but they're not listing peas in the dirty 12. So frozen peas, whichever, they're probably not too bad off. Eggplant is at next, super easy to grow. Asparagus, another one, you plant it once, you have it for a lifetime, my favorite vegetables. The next two are broccoli and cabbage, and then a little bit lower we have cauliflower. They're all in the same family. They can be a little bit more difficult to grow. You need to plant them at the right time. They prefer cooler temperatures. So here in zone 5B, we're looking at probably late July, maybe starting the seeds beginning of July next week, and then putting them in late July or early in August to so that they mature in the cooler temperatures. Broccoli will bolt. A nice substitute for broccoli is called broccoli rabe. It makes little broccoli florets that taste just like broccoli or very close, and you can pick them and they never bolt. And even if they flower, which is bolting, if they do, you can still eat that. Plus you can eat the stems, the whole thing, but they just keep producing and producing and producing. Just at that. Kiwi is here in between those at number 11. There is a hardy kiwi that can be grown in colder regions like ours. You just need to make sure you have at least one male and one female so that they reproduce. They grow like a vine. It's very pretty. I had a little issue with them. I finally did tear them out because I didn't know enough. And maybe I'll try them next spring. Then we have mushrooms. I've always wanted to grow mushrooms. I don't really like mushrooms. I like the very large portobello stuffed. I like them in soup as a beef substitute because they always reminded me, them in lentils, of like beef. But I don't like them like raw in salads or on pizza or anything like that. I just thought it would be fun to grow fungus, fungi. But mushrooms is pretty clean, so not to worry about. 18-wheeler. Neighbor that drives a 18-wheeler, and apparently he's home for a few days. Excuse me on that noise. So the last two, 14 and 15 on the clean, are honeydew melon and cantaloupe. Again, something you could grow yourself. They do take up a lot of space, but then they're low on the pesticides, so maybe you want to give that space over to strawberries instead and buy your cantaloupe at the stores. Again, you can go to this website and give them their email address. They'll email this to you. It changes every year. They do test them. They test a lot of other products. I don't have any affiliation with them. I just look forward to this every year just to keep up on what's going on in the produce sections. You know, you might see something labeled organic, but you're not going to see it labeled heavily pesticide it, or we use herbicides and pesticides on our potatoes. Because of this, I would say, do what you want, of course, but if you're going out to eat and you have a choice of side dishes and it's potatoes or French fries or coleslaw, unless you're really into the French fries, you might want to consider getting the coleslaw again instead, because the cabbage in the coleslaw will have less pesticides in it than what is in French fries. And if you think, oh, I'll just wash them off, they'll be fine, there's something called the Green Carnation Project, and what they do, if they're still doing it, they will go around to places and teach people about pesticides and herbicides, and they take a white carnation and they put it in a glass of water with green food coloring, and what happens, the carnation turns green. When pesticides and herbicides are put on your plants or on the farmer's plants so that they could get a better harvest, it is a business I completely understand, and thank you farmers out there for all that you do, but it does get into the soil. So it will get sucked in by the plant's roots, and you can't wash that off. So choose wisely, spend your money wisely. If you stop buying strawberries that are not organic, or if you start buying strawberries that are, or if you start growing your own because of it, maybe that'll say something to the strawberry farmers, and maybe they'll start, selling organic strawberries, and because that's where the market is. So, vote with your dollar, know the information, enjoy gardening. I could go on for hours, and I won't, because I like my videos to be straightforward and to the point. So I'll make another video another time, hopefully with not so much traffic, about all the many benefits of gardening that maybe you already know. But here you go, the Dirty Dozen. Look for it every year. And again, I'll link the website. Happy gardening, and thanks for watching.